Around, I would say, June of last year, I entered my first episode of major depression, and it lasted for about 7 to 9 months. At which time I was essentially a prisoner in my own body, and I was trapped in a bleak, gray hell of my own creation for about 9 months. And it wasn't until February or March of this year that I started coming out of this depression. So what caused this depressive episode, Rochelle, you might ask? Well, at the time I was diagnosed bipolar, and they had me on lithium, but the fucking doctors who don't give a shit about your health at the psych ward didn't test my thyroid levels, and they didn't even ask if I had a history of thyroid or kidney problems in my family, which I do, by the way. So my thyroid went and it stopped working, and it took about 9 months, even after I got off of the meds, for me to start feeling like a regular human being. Depression. What does a major episode of depression feel like? It feels like somebody has wrapped a wet blanket around your brain, and you can't think, you can't analyze, you can't feel anything, nothing gives you pleasure, and your entire body feels like a diving bell. Like, I felt like my soul had died, and I had no connection to God, no connection to anybody. I couldn't feel anything for anyone, and I couldn't move without extreme effort. Like, me getting up out of bed to go smoke or walking to the convenience store, I would have to sleep. I was sleeping maybe like 14 hours a day, and I was still tired. I was always tired. It was hell. And all I could do, essentially the only thing that brought me any sort of pleasure, was listening to podcasts and playing Sudoku at the same time. And I did that every time, all the time, every time I wasn't sleeping. That's what I was doing, or chain smoking. And I did that for about 9 months. And it was hell. I pretty much let everything good in my life fall by the wayside, and nothing gave me any pleasure, and everything made me sad. And I thought to myself, holy shit, this is never gonna end. This is just me now. This is forever. But it did end. What? And I've come out the other side of it without meds, because when you're bipolar, they can't give you antidepressants, because they're like, oh, that's gonna spiral you into mania. So I was pretty much fucked. Without medication, it took about 7 to 9 months for me to fully get out of this depression on my own, and it happened, and I am just so grateful now. So during that time, I was scouring the internet, because after about 3 months of major depression, you're like, shit, this is never gonna end, right? And I was searching for an answer. I was wondering, what does it feel like to come out of an episode of major depression, right? And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find an article. I couldn't find like a YouTube video. I just wanted to know that there was someone out there who had been through what I'd been through and had come out the other side an okay person. At that point, I didn't even care about reaching the same level of psychosocial functioning that I had prior. I was like, anything. I don't need to draw. I don't need any of my skills. I couldn't draw at the time. I couldn't create anything. I was like, I just want to be able to exist socially and be able to perceive things analytically, because there are cognitive side effects to major depression that nobody talks about. You literally, like, my attention span was gone. I couldn't concentrate on a TV show. I couldn't even concentrate on like a 6-minute long YouTube video. That was like too much for me. It was hell. It was absolute hell. So what does coming out of a depressive episode feel like? For me, it started really slow. And I think as slowly as major depression creeps up on you, that's as slow as it creeps away, you know? slowly you start to notice that maybe things take a little more effort than they used to. And then maybe food doesn't taste as good anymore. And maybe friends who you could count on to always make you laugh, maybe you find them boring. Until you get to a point where nothing brings you any joy and nothing even makes you sad. You just live this bleak, gray existence trapped in your own head, which was at one time a friendly place, and it's now an unfriendly place, and you're just surrounded by all of these bad memories of your manic episode, which I also had, and all of these friendships that were broken, and every time you ever said anything embarrassing in grade 3, and you're in your bed and you can't leave your bed, but you don't want to leave your bed, but you don't want to stay in your bed, and nothing's comfortable, and you essentially are like, man, maybe suicide is the only way out. Yes, I've tried to kill myself a bunch of times. Obviously, that didn't go very well. So if I were to give any advice to someone going through a major depressive episode, try very hard not to kill yourself. But if killing yourself is what brings you out of your depression, or failing to kill yourself, sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes hitting rock bottom, really realistically wanting to be alive, sometimes takes 3 failed suicide attempts. I don't know, man. I was like still depressed for sure. People talk about like this euphoria that comes after trying to kill yourself and failing. There's no euphoria. You just somehow sink to an even deeper level of depression. But then there's like this tiny glimmer of, well, I guess I'll stick around. Maybe. I guess maybe I'm meant to be here because I'm not dead. So maybe not being dead is better than being dead. Maybe. I don't know. That was one thought I had. So what does coming out of a depressive episode feel like? I've heard it described like depression is having the blinds closed, and coming out of it, maybe the blinds will open for like a second and you'll be able to see the trees again and life is beautiful for like 3 seconds, and then they'll slam shut again and you'll be back in this depressive episode. That kind of happened to me a few times. The first thing I noticed was I started to laugh again. So I was listening to all of these podcasts, and there was Last Podcast on a Left was my favorite at the time, and Henry Zabrowski was telling this story about how his pet guinea pig died when he was a child, and him and his mom buried it in the backyard, and before they did, she wrapped it in tinfoil, and he compared it to a burrito, and just the way he said like a burrito, I thought was the funniest thing, and I could not stop laughing. And I remember thinking about that moment for weeks afterwards, because it had been months and months and months of nothing, and then all of a sudden I was laughing. I laughed for maybe a minute and a half, and I couldn't stop thinking about it for like 2 weeks afterwards. I was like, what the fuck is going on? How did that happen? How did that magical moment of laughter go, and why is it gone now, right? And then the other thing I noticed a little while after that was food started tasting good again. And I was still bedlocked, but I remember ordering myself a pizza, and it was spinach and mushroom and goat cheese with blue cheese ranch, and I was like, this pizza is delicious, and I ate the whole thing all to myself after pretty much not eating anything for like 9 months, like other than standing in front of the fridge and just grabbing a pickle or whatever depressed people do. I was like, fuck, I'm loving this pizza. And then I went a little overboard and I ate a lot of junk food, and then I got kind of fat and I was like, ugh, and I still felt like shit, but food was tasting good. Then I noticed that alcohol felt good too, which is like maybe not the best thing, but so I started eating junk food and I started drinking again. But the good thing that came about from me becoming an alcoholic again was because I was completely sober during this whole depressive episode, because I was like, I didn't want to go crazy again, right? Substances made me go manic in the first place. So I was like, no more substances, stone cold sober. But then I started drinking, and it got me out of the house. And I found a partner who also liked drinking, and I kind of started a magical, tragic relationship with someone. And then I don't know. And then after that, it was almost imperceptible how slowly the depression seemed to lift, because it took about, that's why I say 7 to 9 months of major depression, because it took about 2 months for it to go away completely. And I didn't even, once I was like good again, or once I had achieved euthymia, I don't know, it was beautiful. And now I just have so much gratitude for all of my feelings, because all of my feelings had like abandoned me, and I was really just all alone with this weird broken stream of consciousness that didn't seem to make any sense to me. And I'm just so grateful to have a stream of consciousness that makes sense, and to be able to go for a walk, and like all of these things that you take for granted when you're healthy and you've never been depressed, like being able to hold a conversation, being captivated by a book, or being able to like draw a picture or sing and find pleasure and joy from those simple things is the best shit ever. And if you are currently going through an episode of major depression, I promise you it will pass. It's hell, and I don't wish it on anyone in the world, but it happens. What can you do to make your major depression better? Nothing. Sorry, you're shit out of luck. If you're majorly depressed, you're gonna have to go through this depression. Dark night of a soul, whatever you want to call it. You've lost your way. Your body's probably dying somehow. You probably don't know about it. And the tests that they do, like, you could go get blood work done. You're probably low on a bunch of vitamins because you haven't been eating properly because you're depressed. But yeah, I think other than nothing, because depression, you're kind of like, you're stuck with it. I'm sorry. That's just the way shit goes. I would try to focus on my physical health. And I would focus on eating food, even if it sucks, even if it feels like weird mush that is impossible to swallow. Try your hardest to eat things, anything, but if it's good for you, even better. And go for a walk. These two things sound impossible when you're depressed. They sound like, how could you even conceive of going for a walk? But just try your hardest. Go for a walk. Go see a friend. Maybe try, even if it feels painful, even if you feel anxious and uncomfortable and you have to smoke an entire pack of cigarettes just to sit still long enough to hold a conversation. Just try your best. Try your best to move forward. Even if it feels like you've got weights on your feet and you're moving through sludge, you will get through it. And the only thing that you can do is wait. And there are things you can do to make it better, but they're not easy. Life isn't easy. I'm sorry. Maybe meds are part of it. Kind of. I don't know if they've helped anyone before. They might, but I think you just gotta wait it out. And things can make time pass faster, right? You can try your hardest to read a book or watch a TV series. I got really into anime at one point, and I watched the entirety of Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I loved it. And there's so much art and media out there that you can consume while you're depressed. Depression is a great time for consuming media if you can concentrate on it. Even if you can't concentrate on it, sometimes just having a TV show on while you're zoning in and out and falling asleep is enough to pass the time until whatever, just like a storm, you know? You just have to ride out this storm and eventually it won't be stormy anymore. Or you can learn to love the storm. And then one day when you're feeling healthy, maybe you can use this pain to make yourself more compassionate and more understanding. At least that's what I'm trying to do. I don't know if it's working out, but I think everyone has experienced pain and everyone has experienced trauma, and to some extent everyone has experienced major depression, whether it's from illness or from trauma. And the more pain you experience, the more compassion you can feel for others. And when we share our pain and when we share the burden, it becomes lighter, right? So, I don't know. If you're depressed, try to talk to your friends, try to eat some food, try your hardest to pretend that you're a normal person, even if you feel like a weird feelingless robot who can't work their people suit properly, and eventually one day you might feel better. I don't know. I still want to kill myself all the time, but I mean, I think that's not uncommon. I think a lot of people do, because life's hard and it's not easy, and it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be challenging, and resilience is a thing, and you will get through it eventually. You haven't always been majorly depressed. You will not always be majorly depressed, right? Eventually it will pass. It could take a year. It could take a week of major depression is too long. So, fuck, a minute of it is the worst. But you can do it. You can make it through. I believe in you. I did it, and I'm a fucking idiot. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. Literally, all you have to do is not kill yourself, and eventually, one day, you will eat a pizza, and you'll really fucking love the shit out of that pizza, man. Anyway, with that, I think I'm gonna go. Maybe I'll see you guys again, probably. I think I'm gonna make a lot more of these videos because I love the sound of my own voice. So this is Moonrock signing out. Peace out. A-Town. Mwah. Love your faces.